O Carlos Tenório vai perguntar qual é o maior clássico da Marvel, na opinião do Paul. Mr. Paul, we have a question from Carlos Tenório. He would like to know your opinion. Which one is Marvel's greatest classic story ever published? Marvel comic.
I think you have to go with the Galactus trilogy. You know, I think that's as close as you can get to textbook perfect comic book writing of that type of comic. And I remember throwing that at Jeanette Kahn shortly after she arrived at DC as you know, this is what we should figure out how to do. I was more an Avengers fan than an FF fan, so you know, my personal taste may have varied from that. I made it to the second time I was at Stan's house before I brought along my bound volume of the first 16 Avengers and made him sign it over to me. But FF 48 to 50 is about as good as comics get.
Acho que é bom, contextualiza para ele sobre a piada, entendeu? É importante.
Daniel's asking me to contextualize you on this question because we have this joke here in Brazil that Marvel has never published any classics. Marvel doesn't have classic comic books, only DC Comics. So that's why Carlos Tenório asked me this question.
Some part of audience have this kind of quote.
Yeah.
And
well, look, I have the first 30 years of Marvel in my collection. Was friendly with Stan, with Jack, even with Steve, who was certainly a notoriously quiet man. Many of the other people who were there in the original bullpen. Saul Brodsky, Flo Steinberg was a friend. I think one thing that is different about Marvel through much of its life versus DC, particularly in the 80s and the 90s, there was a stretch there where DC was very good at doing things that were self-contained, things that definitively had a beginning, middle, and an end, and were done by wonderful talent. Not all of it was brilliant, but that approach allowed for things from Dark Knight Returns to Darwin Cook's New Frontier to some of the cool single prestiges, even Killing Joke, which has been enormously successful for the company. For whatever set of reasons, the best stuff that Marvel did was in continuity, issue to issue to issue, the soap operas. Even if you look at that Galactus saga, it ends in the middle of issue 50, and then there's a whole other storyline beginning. If you look at the totality of Fantastic Four from about issue 35 to 55, it's probably one of the most inventive comic books ever done in terms of the number of original ideas. The Black Panther, the Inhumans, the Negative Zone, the Silver Surfer, and Galactus. What an astounding 2 years. But it isn't organized in a way that lets you say, here's a complete all-in-one in itself, 100 pages that tells a graphic novel story. Of course, no one working in those days, nor in the days when we did the Great Darkness saga, expected these things to be put together in trade paperbacks or albums. That was just a fantasy at that point. So you didn't create your comics designed to be chopped up that way. We moved towards that at DC, maybe a little more rapidly and a little better than Marvel did. But they've certainly had plenty of classic moments.
Thank you very much, sir. Para traduzir agora a resposta, então, cadê o Caruso? A questão é assim, que a gente então perguntou, né, se a Marvel tem clássicos ali, ele respondeu que para ele a história mais clássica é da trilogia do Galactus, né, ele falou ali que embora seja um grande fã de Avengers, enfim, mas que ele curte muito essa saga, assim, mais Avengers do que os Vingadores, mais do que o Quarteto Fantástico, mas que ele então curtia essa saga, né, do Galactus. Aí então a gente contextualizou para ele da piada, né, porque aqui no Brasil a gente fala que o Marvel não tem clássicos, enfim, aí ele comentou assim, cara, assim, né, tem toda aqui os primeiros 30 anos da história da Marvel, coisa e tal, enfim, contato com o pessoal da Marvel, e inclusive quando recebeu o material, por exemplo, do Galactus, eles, pô, isso é uma coisa que a gente tem que fazer aqui na DC Comics, é nessa linha que a gente tem que fazer, e aí ele também comenta ali que a grande diferença da Marvel e da DC Comics ali, por exemplo, dos anos 80 e 90, é que a DC Comics, ela era mais hábil em fazer histórias contidas em si, então arcos fechados, enquanto a Marvel, ela trabalhava muito com a continuidade, então com as séries regulares. Então ele fala assim, que inclusive essa série do Galactus, que é uma das coisas mais incríveis já feitas, diz que lá pela edição, acho que 50, não me lembro qual foi o número que ele falou, peço desculpas, mas esse aqui chega uma hora que tu vê que a saga do Galactus termina e já começa uma outra, tem uma outra linha chegando, assim, que na época não se pensava, por exemplo, nem quando ele tá fazendo a saga das Trevas Eternas, que isso seria cortado e seria feito, por exemplo, encadernado, então não se pensava nisso, isso era só uma fantasia, né? Então tu pensava na continuidade, ou então a DC Comics se tocou isso talvez mais cedo e começou a produzir então esses arcos fechados, as histórias autocontidas, né? Então foi isso aí que ele respondeu. Vamos para a segunda pergunta ali do Super Chat, né? Vamos ver aqui